I will just ask if you've got anything you want to say about Ram Navami, which is coming up.
Vijay bhai?
Yeah, all I can say is that regarding Ram Navami, it's a very very special occasion. Basically celebrating the idea of the birth of Ram. And Ram has always been an endearing personality in Hinduism. And basically, what he stands for, his life and his idea of bhakti, all that is really absolutely kind of ingrained into all Hindus. It is basically part of a DNA. And also, there's so much to learn from Ram's life. Also, the most amazing thing about Ram is the idea of how to be in how to lead an ideal life, a life of harmony, a life of peace, and basically life, most of all, a life which follows dharma. And that's also the best thing about Ram. And I think at the moment in India, the idea of Ram is on everybody's lips because of Ram Mandir. So I think you can see the whole of India is charged up. Just the name of Lord Ram charges everybody up and gives them strength. So that's how special the name of Lord Ram is. Sita?
Yeah, I mean, he's been, alive within Hinduism for, so many thousand years. And the fact that, he's such an inspiring personality, even though he lived such a long time ago, is a real testament to his character and the wonderful story of the Ramayana as well. So yeah, that's all I can say. And hopefully we can watch the video.
Absolutely. So let me just bring the video up.
Next, you see this Ramakrishna. Remember, his lineage is strongly dedicated to the idea of Raghuvir, Ram. So Ram must enter the story too. So now you see, it's just like when this thing is being wound up, various personalities visit Dakshineshwar, and the next person to come to Dakshineshwar is somebody, a sadhu called Jatadhari. Now this sadhu had a little metal image of Sri Ram, baby Ram. It's called Ram Lala. Now he looks at the image as if it's alive. He feeds it, he talks to the image. People think, of course, he's gone mad. But he sees the real God there. The other people cannot recognize it, but this Ramakrishna can recognize. And he realizes this person is realized. He's able to see real God playing and interacting with him through this little figure. This figure has come alive. Now you see, for rest of us, you may think, now exactly what is he perhaps gone a bit mad? I mean, how can he possibly see things which the rest of us cannot see? Let me tidy up, because it may appear as if this is his own, he's living in his own mental world. He's gone mental, in fact. Let me tidy up. When, for example, God becomes visible to you in front of you in real life, we are successful. Do you know what it's like? The intensity with which you experience this God is far superior than the intensity with which you experience the rest of human beings. They appear like cutouts. So you can imagine the cutouts can never see this real living thing. They are cutouts. So other people say, well, what is he talking about? Well, they're just like little shadows. They chatter. What is he on about? And yet the person and that ideal, that deity becomes alive. They interact in the most personal manner. And the reason why it becomes possible is because this person and that person are closely linked. They're both spiritual beings, and they are visible to each other because they are both spiritual beings and not material beings. So the rest of the material kingdom doesn't bother them. But that experience is not some fuzzy experience, not some make-believe experience. It is a dramatic, very real experience. God is more visible than the rest of humanity. That is how it is, how dramatic it is. So here is the Jatadhari playing with Ram. Nobody else recognizes what is happening. And at the end of his stay at Dakshineshwar, he told Ramakrishna, you are the right person to look after this Ram Lala. I'm going to leave him to you. And I've done my life's work, and I will go away now. And since that time, look at the story unfolding. This little baby, this baby Ram, comes alive in the story of Ramakrishna. Look, I'm trying to tell you an extraordinary story in the most ordinary language I possess. And yet, I cannot compromise it. Now, this is what Ramakrishna says. He says, sometimes I would take this baby Ram to take a bath in the river Ganga. He would splash water. He would be very naughty, and I would scold him, saying, stop it, you can't do that. It's time, you had enough. No, I want to stay in the water. No, enough now, come out. You can't stay too long. And he would cry, and I would drag him away and tell him off, and he would sulk. Can you imagine this kind of interaction in this day and age with a living God in our times? Real, very real, my friends. There is nothing make-believe here. Comes alive.
It's a beautiful video. Sita, you want to elaborate on that? I love
Yeah,
this.
I think just the idea of seeing God in real life is just such a mind-blowing experience that you can't even put it into words, that level of experience. And to other people, it just looks like Dad was saying in the video, you think, maybe they've gone mad or something. But for that person, being able to see God as a real human being, as a real person, is such a vibrant experience that it'll completely change your life forever. And we've seen examples of prophets and saints throughout India, throughout the ages, who have actually seen God in real life. People like Mirabai and Tulsidas, they've seen God in real life, and their whole lives are transformed. And not only their own lives, people look up to them as a source of inspiration, because if they were just imagining things or whatever, they wouldn't be remembered hundreds of years later. There is something really vibrant and special and spiritual about having this kind of experience. And another thing that I would very much like to say about Ram is that he really embodies the ideal of living for others. He was a king who was very, very different to any other king throughout history, because other kings were going out conquering kingdoms, trying to pillage and trying to accumulate wealth and power, whereas Ram was the opposite. He didn't go out to sort of destroy other kingdoms and all of that. He actually went to Sri Lanka and he actually tried to assimilate and integrate the civilizations of the north and the south. So it's something really unique and special about Sri Ram, which we have to really respect. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think quite nicely said, Sita. I mean, also remember that Ram was a king who basically lived, as I think Jai Bhai said so many times, for principle rather than possession. To think about it, when he was told by Kaikeyi that, okay, you have to go to the forest, he didn't argue saying, oh, I want my kingdom, how dare you throw me out, this is my realm. No, he just walked out, just on a basis of principle, he just walked out, no questions asked. I mean, considering that in this day and age, we even fight for small things like a car or a phone or shoes even, and somebody just flick a kingdom away and walk away. That's just absolutely amazing. Also, something else you see if you look at the Tulsi Ramayana, the dynamics you see between Ram and say Hanuman, the love that Ram has for Hanuman is absolutely mind blowing. And then that's at that time, but it also the fact that it happens almost like just 150 years ago with Ramakrishna is absolutely amazing. I mean, think about the idea of Shabri and Ram, the dynamics when when Shabri met Ram, and the emotion that comes out from Tulsi Ramayana is absolutely amazing. You can see why Shabri and Hanuman love Ram so much. As Sita said, even this day, Ramakrishna Paramahansa did as well. So he's been an endearing personality for so long, and he's actually almost like a pillar of a Hindu civilization. And I'm so glad that at the moment now they're building a grand temple to honor him, who has done so much for India and is part of Indian psyche for thousands of years. Yeah, that's what I can say for that. It's absolutely amazing.
So, Vijay Bhai, I mean, the Ramayana is such a cornerstone of of Hinduism. It's one of those epics that everybody loves learning from and reading all the time. But one question a lot of people ask is it something that happened in reality? Was it a historical event? Or is it something that was just made up, by some learned people?
Yeah, a good question. Personally, I think there is a very strong, very good historical basis. Because I mean, think about it, it's been enduring for thousands of years, yes? So there has to be some sort of historical background to him. But okay, one thing I do agree that perhaps some things in the Ramayana may be exaggerations. I mean, like when you see Ram today, people drawing pictures with silk clothes. Now we know silk came to China from China about, I think, 500 BC. So it came afterwards. So some things we portray, we add in minus and subtract. So that may not be true, but on the whole, the fact that Ram exists, I think most likely so, from Ayodhya, wherever the kingdom was. So it's a very, that's why we call it Itihas, by the way. Both Mahabharata and Ramayana are called Itihas. But yes, we can't say, we should be honest about it. We can't say that what we see in the Ramayana today perhaps is the same as Ram was at that time. There may be difference, but I think there's a very, very strong reasons for it to be a historical figure. But that's my take on it, Asita.
Yeah, there's not much I can add to it. The fact that he has inspired millions of people over thousands of years is just a testament to the sort of dynamic spiritual personality that he was. And he's revered, he's looked up to, and he's got a wonderful, colourful story, the Ramayana. But as you say, we have to sort of look at it rationally and say, did Ravan really have 10 heads? Surely there's lots of different aspects of the Ramayana story, which we have to understand were added on over numerous thousands of tellings over so many generations. It's a bit like Chinese whispers in a way. You say one thing and then you pass it over 10 people. It does sort of vary and it does change because that's just human nature. And that's, in a way, it's the beauty of it. It reflects the thinking of, people over thousands of years, how they like to imagine certain things to be and to not be. So yeah, in that sense, it can be sort of like a reflection of human history.
Wonderful. So as we celebrate Ram Navami, which is the birth of Sri Ram, let's maybe discuss what has been his significance in Hinduism. He is sort of known for being a very upstanding gentleman, somebody who's got a strong moral compass and wants to do the right thing, ultimate epitome of morality. But let's see what was his impact and significance in the direction Hinduism has taken.
So I think the thing is that one thing which really comes out, which holds to this day, is the idea of dharma. So at the time of Ram, I think you can remember this, the time which you must analyze Ram's life in the context of his contemporary times when he was there and how society was structured. And if you notice about Ram, that he was always sacrificing himself, even his wife Sita, for the betterment of the greater good of the society, as he saw at that point. But I think basically the key seeds of dharma. I mean, dharma is always been part of our tradition. And one thing we have to remember is that the word religion doesn't really fit the Indic traditions in the true sense. We are seen as dharmas, and Ram is kind of seen as the embodiment of dharma on how to live, as I mentioned earlier, for principle rather than possession. And that can be seen from his life, throughout his life. I mean, when he went, I'll give you an example in the Ramayana when he meets in the Kiskindha Khand, when Tulsidas mentions, look, Ram has come to the forest, he's got such supple hands, supple feet, yet he comes to the forest, yes. So again, you see that for him, even the beauty, all the good life he had, he gave that up and he was in the forest and really happy to do that. So a person who's very steeped in dharma, dharma means duty towards, as a king, his duty towards others. I mean, how he shows respect to others. As a matter of fact, he also told Hanuman that I love my devotees twice as much as my own brother. So you can see how much love Ram has for his devotees. And all the ideas of the way he lives, the way he treats Sugriva, the way he treats Hanuman, the way he treats everybody, you see the idea of coming out of dharma kind of playing out. And I think that's the biggest take you see from Ram. I mean, he's known as the Adarsh Purushottam, ideal man. And who can be more ideal than the one who actually follows dharma to the highest standard? So that is Ram as embodiment, yes. And that's what we have today. We got rich inheritance from Ram's life. Yeah, Sita.
Yeah, I mean, like I touched on before, like he did sort of assimilate and integrate the two sort of Indian civilizations, the north and the south. Whereas, throughout history we have so many examples of kings, and they kind of come across another civilization and they completely annihilate it, they completely destroy it. But here he was a king who actually brought the best of both worlds together. And to this day, North and South India are both sort of civilizations in their own right. They've got their own music, their own culture. One didn't come along and destroy the other. So that's a wonderful example that Ram has set. And I wish that other sort of, kingdoms throughout history would have followed such a wonderful example of integrating and assimilating rather than going out and destroying. There's so many civilizations throughout the world which have been completely annihilated. So it would have been an amazing, what kind of a world would we be living in if everyone had followed Ram's example?
Well, another question to explore, that a few people have been asking is, there are so many versions of the Ramayana. There are, depending on how you count, I think up to 300 different existing versions. So the most well-known one is the sage Valmiki version, or the Sanskrit one, which has then gone on to be adapted and translated into various languages, and has gone to the Southeast Asia continent, if I would say. And but the question remains this: which is the most original version of the Ramayana? Because I'm sure every other version has got its own take. And like Vijay Bhai said, we have to take things into context of the time they were in at that time. And at that time, everything was more or less by word of mouth. Teaching and passing on stories was how things were. And every storyteller then embellishes a little bit, or the truth gets a little bit lost. So what is the most original version of Ramayana?
It's tricky to say because because Hinduism is a free system. Everybody who's spiritually inspired will write his own, because of love for Ram, they write his own Ramayana, and they're bound to be slightly different. You're right, it's about at least over 100 different variations. But from what I know, the two most popular today, I believe, is the Valmiki Ramayana and its translations, and the Tulsi Ramayana, which is about, I think, 500 or 600 ago, which is the one in Awadhi language. These are kind of the two main ones. But yes, there's one, I know Ramayana even from the viewpoint of Sita, interesting enough. So there are all kinds of Ramayana, not one. But that's one thing about Hinduism, because you have kind of a so to say, a spiritual democracy, as Jay Bhai used to put it, we will have a lot of variation. That is one thing you have to pay. You think about it, if you take a scripture from from some of the Abrahamic faith, and you read a new version and your own version, you'd be accused of blasphemy, right? We don't have that concept. So I think sometimes people say we pay a price in that sense, because we allow the freedom of thought and freedom of people to express themselves. So we are bound to have many versions of Ramayana. But I think some of the most popular, most endearing, which people have which makes the most sense, which people love the most, they will endear and kind of progress and spread out. But yes, there are many. I have got about 4 different versions at home. But yes, there are very many versions. But that's something, I think that's how Hinduism is. So I think one thing to be very careful about is that Hinduism is not it's not a religion of the book. That's one thing we must keep in mind. It's a religion of we are an experiential religion. So the Ramayana read is to inspire you to progress spiritually. That's the aim. It's not something you follow blindly and say, okay, I believe, I follow Ramayana, I follow it, I'm going to get to heaven. It doesn't work like that for Hinduism. It's a book of inspiration. So if you're inspired by Ramayana, then you be like Ram. And that's the beauty about Hinduism. So we have to be very careful that many books are there. Some are more older, more authentic, some are not. But that's how the ball rolls, I guess. Sita, Ben?
Yeah, no, I think you've covered it basically. It's very difficult to know the historical accuracy of each version of the Ramayana, but you just have to take, the main message of the story and sort of make it your own. So adopt the ideals of Ram. If you love Ram, then adopt his ideals and live a spiritual life for other people rather than for yourself. And he demonstrated that in every aspect of his life, not just as a king, but also in his personal life as well. He gave up what he loved the most, his wife Sita, and he gave her up just to sort of set a moral code for the rest of the kingdom, which is one of the most hardest things to do. Whereas other people would maybe do the opposite. They would be like, "Oh, forget everybody else." But Ram was actually saying, I give up what I love the most, dearest person to me. I'm going to give her up to protect the moral fabric of my kingdom. And that's something that's really inspiring.
So that's very interesting you mentioned that, because we have a question from Prasanna Nand Jha on YouTube. And it's around the same thing. They're saying that, when Sita went through Agni Pariksha, both Ram and Sita suffered so as to establish an example for the people of Ayodhya. But if Ram was Maryada Purushottam, he should have defended his wife no matter what, instead of proving her chastity to the general public.
Yeah. Sita, you want to have a go? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we don't know what the sort of thinking of the people was at that particular time, thousands of years ago. We don't know, and possibly it wasn't possible to convince people that way. Maybe he thought that there would always be some element of doubt in people's minds over this. So the way to make a sort of clean sort of sweep and say, look, I'm giving up this my wife in order to demonstrate and to make an example that you can't go around sort of staying with lots of different men. It's not acceptable. I think unfortunately it feels like the only way that he was able to do that was by setting an example for himself, and in a way that they're both having to sacrifice to sort of keep up the moral fabric of the kingdom, really. So I think even if you try and argue and say sort of clever arguments, there will possibly always be a seed of doubt in people's minds. Vijay Bhai?
No, I agree. I think the Ram in that scenario is actually we face this kind of situation every day. We have to make two critical decisions, and don't forget Ram was actually a king, so he was actually not only responsible, say, to his wife, but also to the public at large. So how does he balance this idea as a duty of a king? Don't forget, kings are required to also die for their public in battle. I mean, for him to give up Sita may be tough, but what is best for his kingdom and for the vast majority public? So if somebody, as Sita says, somebody who's sacrificing their own well-being for the betterment of others. It's very hard to do. I mean, even now, it's a struggle for us. Most of us just close our eyes even when we pass somebody who's struggling or poverty. So somebody who has to make the decision is very tough. But yeah, it's a question of the society, how it was at that time. And I think he made a decision on that basis. Yeah. So I think the message you can learn from them is that sometimes we have very tough decisions to make. And this is what that particular incident kind of tells us. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, folks, if you're watching us, you would be either watching us on YouTube or on Facebook on our channels at Hindu Academy. Thank you so very much for your comments, for your questions. Please keep them coming. And next, I'd like to ask a question from our regular viewer from South Africa, Charmaine. She says she read a commentary on the Ramayana where it is compared that Sri Ram is like the Atman, Lakshman is the Jiva, Sita is like Maya, the three mothers are the three gunas, and Ravan is the lower human desires or the vices, and the golden deer is materialism. Do you have any comments on this?
Okay, I've read that once somewhere as well, and I think many people see that. I mean, if you want to use it as an example, so be it. I think some people have just. I mean, I guess what I can say, you can always take this character and fit in certain situations. Hinduism has got so many different ideas, and that kind of looks almost correct. I'm not sure about Sita with Maya. Then I'm not sure of that one. But the other kind of fits, right? But yeah, I guess it's what message you take from me. All I can say is that the message has to be good. That's all I can say about it, Sita.
Yeah, I mean, I think these kind of concepts of Atman, Jivatma, and Maya are very difficult concepts to grasp. So somebody has come along and sort of put an analogy and tried to make it a bit easier for everybody to understand. And I have heard this analogy before. So I think the example is, Ram, Lakshman, and Sita walking in the forest in a line, one behind the other. So Lakshman is at the back, Sita is in the middle, and Ram is at the front. And Lakshman has such a desire to see Ram. He's like, oh, I really want to see Ram. I want to see Ram. And Sita is depicted as Maya, which is a bit, I don't know how you'd like to see. But once in a while, Sita will step to the side so that Lakshman can then gain vision of his, ideal, who is Ram. So in that sense, it kind of gives us a bit of a handle on these very subtle concepts. So yeah, if it helps you understand it, then please by all means go for it. And I didn't know about the golden deer representing materialism and all of that, so it's very interesting to hear.
It's quite interesting to see how it all fits in. If you look for it, you find things very interesting. It's a very nice observation. Thank you, Charmaine, for sharing that.